Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We have an update with the Clayton Echard trial. As we know, Clayton was found essentially innocent on all these fabricated, accusations and ultrasounds and this from his accuser. The ruling is a little more complicated, but it was a slam dunk for Clayton. And now people are out taking a victory lap, and it's been a wild week of highs and lows, having been called out by a friend on social media and, trying to do my part to own up to that, but also not done talking about it. Nick addresses the Clayton situation and says he did his part. And I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm going to read some comments where people say, Dave, you're such an instigator. Maybe that's the younger brother in me that's an instigator. I just want to poke at people. I don't think that's the case. I'll let you guys decide. You can vote with your dollar if you want and stick around or don't. You know what I mean? That's what we're all here for. It's so funny as I'm going to discuss this because just a couple years ago, I was just like a no-name guy making things, and I'm still a no-name guy, but in this niche, I talk about things. And as I'm going to share what Nick has to say, they refuse to say my name, and it's obviously annoying, not because I want anything from them. If you don't know, several years ago, I got a DM from Nick that said, call me. We spoke on the phone. And at the time he says, hey, I like your content. You're doing a good job. I'm starting a network and I'd love to possibly hire you. So I would have, and by the way, never taken a job with him. No offense to him, but I make good money doing things in my pajamas. I've got a baby in my sack right now. I've got a baby in my shirt. Look, you know what I mean? I'm not working for anybody. Unless it's for life-changing, life-altering money, which would never be the case. So either way, respectfully, that's where that conversation ended, and I appreciated his business plan, but I make my living kind of being critical of things that are kind of obvious to be critical about. Nick bashing the UCAN Foundation, which was made for mental health help. Just very bizarre things. Of course, he got in a beef with my pal Katie, and I went to bat, of course, defending her because he was very hypocritical, exposing DMs, calling Blake the F-boy thing. Just like weird beefs that I believe he instigated. He pokes the bear, and then he tries to monetize it on his channel, which is perfectly fine. I'm not shaming him. Good business model. But what I'm going to do is share what they have to say regarding the Clayton situation, and then I'm just going to politely interject where I think they are sort of rewriting the story and rewriting my gripe. Some of this comes from the fact that I was called out by a friend this week for, I guess I'm being like super toxic and bitter. And by the way, go back to the wide shot. I don't disagree that my mental health is taking a toll. Getting sued for harassment and then all these other threats of lawsuits has been wild. Having my character smeared, in Medium articles and videos taken out of context and things like that. It's been very bizarre. Not playing a victim, just coming to terms with the fact that I can do work on myself. 2 days ago, I covered that in my podcast, like 20 minutes long. I'll post a link in the description if you want to listen to it. I give my full take after being called out on how sad and tragic and again, just bizarre it was. I've never had anything happen like that. I've never had a friend, I don't want to get into the details. I already talked about it, but I'm taking inventory, which is what we can do, right? Take inventory. But I don't think they're quite addressing my gripe here. So let's play it, and then I'll pause and discuss as I see fit. Have a listen.
Watch. Clayton is his trial was
court sides with Clayton Echard in the paternity trial. So did we throw that out? Did the court was like, listen, this is getting too much?
Is this finally?
It wasn't thrown out. And that was reported. I'm not blaming her. It was reported by a couple magazines. The court throws it out. No, the court made a decision. The court made a decision. Nothing was thrown out.
Resolved, because I feel like he obviously came on here, told his story. Obviously, Team Clayton. But is this done finally?
I believe, Nick, that he's Team Clayton. I do.
According to this doc, the docs, this person knowingly presented a false claim, knowingly violated a court order compelling disclosure or discovery such that an award of attorney fees and costs is appropriate. Okay, so she has to pay all of his attorney fees?
Yeah, well, then justice for Clayton.
And then it's further ordered that the court, having determined that this person has a pattern of similar, if not identical behavior and
Clayton
court involvement, referring this matter to the county attorney's office for review of their actions. So basically, there's further investigations going into this person.
Now, just proactively referring to the county prosecutor. That doesn't mean the prosecutor's going to do anything about it. Just to let you guys know, we are continuing to fight for justice. Someone tweeted this yesterday. I was an armchair spectator in North Carolina until today. I was inspired by this morning's podcast. I'm guessing Rush Hour, my morning podcast. I don't even know what I said. Meg Fox and Dave Neal care about justice. Rachel Mitchell, who's the prosecutor, the letter is on the way. So letters are being sent from people from all over. You know what I mean? And I get emotional. Where the hell are these letters coming from? Canada? They got a Christmas sticker. There was a letter that came in from, these are letters that are coming in from all over the country. There was a letter that came in from London. It's in there somewhere. There it is, from London or England. People are sending letters in. So they're sending letters in because they want justice. Justice came in the small arena of family court. By that meaning Clayton proved he was never the father. But justice hasn't come in as far as this was a civil trial. This was between two people. Now we want the prosecutors to look at her and look at all the evidence. Faking a black journalist to try to cancel Clayton. Faking an Asian doctor to try to persuade her previous boyfriend that she had ovarian cancer. Faking, all these different things. Putting a Fiverr logo on an ultrasound. Faking that. All these things that I've been accused of, smearing her about have all been proven true. So yes, this court case is over. But if you're just new to the channel and think, Dave, you're a horrible guy, think what you want about me. But in the description of this video is a form letter. If you would like to send a letter to the prosecutor in Maricopa County to get this criminal prosecuted. She's done this 3-4 times. And she's not stopping. She's not admitting to it. And she needs justice. And we need this for all the women out there who are victims, who may not be believed because of the people like Laura Owens who have lied. Okay, a proven liar in court.
Yeah, this was a very crazy story, and if you have not listened to the episode with Clayton Echard, you should definitely go and listen.
Pronounces his name wrong.
To it. It's definitely a very Gone Girl-esque.
Yeah.
Like, not even, minus the murder.
Yeah, of course.
That we know of.
There was
Allegedly.
no murders that we are aware of, but there was definitely a lot of craziness going on. Oh, listen, this was a very tough moment for Clayton. All jokes aside, he really struggled through this, and I'm sure it was a very scary time. So very glad that he seems to be out of this, and hopefully he can move on with his life, because it's like one of those, I think he's been so obviously fixated on clearing his name, which is totally understandable, but I really hope...
I don't think anyone who's been accused of something like this, I never have, really understand what it's like. Clayton didn't ask for this, and Nick is about to imagine Clayton's going to become like a men's rights guy.
But now he can move on. I wouldn't be surprised if he almost stays in this lane and tries to advocate for similar people who have, but I kind of hope for him that he just kind of moves on from this. Yeah. And
which is so rich. And again, I don't think Nick's got a negative intention towards his comment, but what do you mean move on from this? There's a restraining order against him. Okay. As Mike Maricini, another victim of Laura Owens, has said, oh, the baby's waking up. As Mike Maricini has said, he gets job interviews, and then once it goes to HR, he doesn't get the job because there's restraining orders against these men. So they are so far removed from the essence of the battle that, yeah, it's rich. I wish Clayton could move on from this too. I just imagine any Google search, it's going to be very hard for him to know which battles he's losing because the Google search is going to look so bad. Even if he has been vindicated, there's so much more to talk about here. It has become his identity, and it's not because of it's not his fault.
And moves forward.
Yeah, what's interesting is that there's a lot of discourse right now I've seen where people are getting upset that other past Bachelor and Bachelorette contestants aren't speaking out about.
So they're directly talking about me and the call out from my friend who called me out online, and it made the rounds and was probably the most viral Bachelor story of the day, which again was a bummer because I did make a comment on Reddit saying those that didn't support Clayton, he won't forget. And that is cryptic, and I wish I said it in a better way, or better yet, I wish I didn't say it on Reddit. I can't not, sometimes I'm a commenter and I just comment things. I am almost never taken out of context when I'm speaking because tone is important. But I mean, I was blasted to 750,000 people. And then to the subreddits, honestly, probably the impressions were well into the millions. It's okay. You know, I hate that because of that. I had my most successful podcast day ever for 2 or 3 days straight. I hate that was the result of people being curious here, but I do want to make sure that they understand. I feel entitled to try to hold people accountable when they can use their voice to help somebody. We were watching somebody get robbed of their livelihood in real time. And the response we're going to get from them is like, dude, Clayton's a big boy. Look at this. Look at one of these commenters. They said, Jesus, bold. Clayton is a grown ass man. He didn't need a savior. Go help save the children or something, or those who really don't have a voice. Well, we'll get to the children when we donate money to the teacher's wish list coming in a few months. And when we have our single mom's Christmas wish list, we'll take care of them. We are a very charitable group. The audience that we have here is the best, and I will go to bat to them till the end of days. But someone says, do you have anything better to do than constantly stir the pot? Pff, I guess not. Anytime I see something about you, it's you nonstop talking in circles, trolling other people. Props to you. You clearly think very highly of yourself. I used to try listening to your podcast, but it was truly excruciating hearing you dissect everyone who... And I think it just ends there. There's nothing left. So either way, not many fans coming in. And that's fine. People can have their opinion. But I have to make sure they understand the essence of my gripe. You know, that's what communication is all about. Look, you have to this would be, by the way, this would be riveting content. I'm not asking to go on their show. They wouldn't have me. But this would be riveting content. And I think they wouldn't have me on because the same reason they wouldn't have Nick Thompson on from the UCAN Foundation, because it's really hard to understand this story because, you know, like I truly believe I've been, you know, a part of a movement that's all good. And they're kind of sitting on their hands saying, well, we had him on our show once, 2 months too late. And this just doesn't fly.
Well, I feel like we have. I mean, certainly we had him on the show. We've done our part. But,
not us.
Okay, so that comment was a jab, which is fine. I like a good jab. He says, we've done our part. What you have to understand is this video that they had Clayton on was January 11th, 2024. Clayton needed help. End of October. I'm not saying this for my high horse. I'm saying don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. Clayton needed help. My audience, you guys, raised over $10,000 for him, which was enough to get him an attorney, Woodnick Law, who has been a savior here. Woodnick Law is going to lose $100,000 on this. Even though they won the judgment, Laura Owens is never going to pay. They do not expect they're going to make their money back. They are taking a huge loss on this. But we got the 10 grand early on to be able to get Deandra from Woodnick Law to cross-examine Laura in a very important moment. That cross-examination, I can't begin to tell you guys how important that cross-examination was. She said she went to Dr. Higley, Dr. McCool. She got all these things on the record. She's still pregnant at 24 weeks. All these different things happened on the record, which she has committed perjury, guys. She perjured herself. She lied under oath. What fucking country do we live in if we're not holding justice to the highest standard? I can't believe I'm the crazy person here to some people. I can't believe we're not having this conversation. There are victims in real life that will not be believed because of people like Laura Owens who made a mockery of the system, and they're going, we did our part 2 months late. And my point is this: I'm not saying this to sound bitter. This is considerate performance art. My point, which I'm trying to make, is that I believed that there was a camaraderie within Bachelor Nation. Now look, so-and-so unfollowed so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. Brendan Moraes, Dale's toes. Tayshia didn't show up for the final. Caitlin's weird. Whatever people want to say. But when push came to shove, they all knew Clayton was innocent. And as far as I know, the only people that donated to his GoFundMe was maybe Susie. Susie did. And again, if anyone else did, I truly am sorry for not recognizing you right now. I know some other people have shared his story, absolutely. But I was talking about, I was out there ready, with the gavel. Let's go, grassroots movement. Everyone in Bachelor Nation, let's just put an end to this craziness. And then people say, and I get it. Hey, guys, Dave, everyone else has more important stuff going on. And I go, I understand. But what's more important than helping a guy that's literally losing his livelihood right in front of us when we all know what the truth is? I sound crazy. I'm not trying to be bitter. I'm just trying to not have the history of what happened rewritten here. Take your jab all you want. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I'm just going to make a video saying, that's not what happened. This was January 11th. This was 2 months after, the help and the artillery started coming in. This is like when the battle's already being won and then you say, all right, let's get that interview. And of course, I understand Nick didn't want to be sued. I get it. Nobody wanted to be sued. I understand. My thought was if people like Nick and other people covered it, she wasn't going to sue everybody, but because nobody covered it, I got sued. Okay? I got a cease and desist sent to me when I was on my baby moon. And again, I'm not trying to play the victim. I know I do this content for a living. I make my money. I just thought we were all going to be joining arms in even those that I have disagreements with and back and forth, we would all share in it, whatever. I wasn't mad that Nick got the interview over me. I had a Clayton interview I did in October. I had to table it because he was in ongoing litigation, which I will share with our Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. Join the Patreon. I will share that interview. A lot of it's stale milk at this point because so much else has happened, but I don't care if not one person watches this video. For the record, I have to say, guys, I'm sorry. I needed y'all here. I understand everyone else has other things going on. I'm going to try my best to overcome this, but if we're going to discuss what happened this week, I can apologize. I sent a 15-minute video apologizing to the person who blasted me saying, I'm not trying to be bitter. I'm mentally messed up from this. She won. Laura Owens won. And if her attempt was to try to mess my brain up, clearly she won because I've lost friends over this because I felt like I wasn't getting the support. My family has no idea what I've been through. They have no idea what's going on. They don't follow this stuff. So anyone who's not in the Justice for Clayton community, which is being called a cult and smeared after all of the good work they've done, a community of all women from across political spectrum, from left all the way to right. It's literally linked all these women together. With all that said, it's like, again, I'm fine. I'll be okay, but I have to correct the story.
But also, what are what are people supposed to be saying?
You're supposed to share a GoFundMe back in early November. You could have shared it with your platform. He needed the money to get a lawyer to properly end the madness.
Like we don't all follow each other. And if we do, we all...
Clayton talked to Nick for an hour. Back in either October or November, Nick knew the whole story. The idea that we don't know follow each other is fine. People knew the story. They all knew the story.
All don't give a shit and pay attention to each other. It's more out of courtesy sometimes. And some of the people we're friends with, some of the people we're not. But also to the point of the Clayton, like there was this whole like Maury Povich moment where he's like, I am not the father. And I think a lot of people at that point thought that was it.
I can take that. People thought it was over. I can take that. All right. Okay. So they thought it was over. But still, they didn't have Clayton on when he needed it the most. And if Clayton wasn't allowed to talk because he was in ongoing litigation, just speak up. So Nick said something very telling here. He said, sometimes we help people out to do a favor. He's top dog in the Bachelor world. So that's why we're talking about him. Just like Joe Rogan gets a lot of heat because he's top dog in the podcasting world. That's why you talk about him. You talk about the top dogs. And I have no problem admitting that. He's got a gigantic platform and a huge business model here. So the criticism, it's like, you knew what was going on. We just needed some more mainstream exposure, people that would cover this. And I think if I was talking to him in person, I would say, Nick, Bubba, look, I get it. But like you're coming at this from a very selfish place. And I understand you didn't want to get sued. Nobody did. But there's plenty of legal things, legal ways you could have provided justice for Clayton and shared his GoFundMe. You knew he wasn't lying. He sent you all of these ultrasounds and things. Like, you knew he wasn't lying, right? Everyone knew he wasn't lying, right? It wasn't about that. It was about, I'm not going to talk about it till Clayton can come on. And then he got the big interview and was very happy to make a flashy, Instagram reel and all of that when it came down to his monetization. Fuck monetization. People say, oh, Dave, you made a lot of money covering the story. My channel was successful covering Dale's toenails, okay? It's not about the money. We were doing fine. Some people even said, hey, Dave, you bought your house talking about the Clayton case. Are you an absolute idiot? Do you know how long it takes to buy a home? You need 2 years of tax returns. So if I put an offer in a home in December of 2023, that means I needed 2022 and 2021 tax returns. This was, a year and a half before Clayton got 2 blowjobs in Arizona, okay? I know I'm preaching to the choir, but if I sound bitter, I'm just rewriting the story that was rewritten with actual facts of what went down.
Obviously, this has been ongoing, so I feel like variety of people who have but I think the main takeaway is for some of the contestants you see on The Bachelor, the people who are also on the show aren't always as obsessed with these storylines or these people as some of the fans are, which is okay.
However, they're not obligated to speak on it. There's nothing really left to say.
Yeah,
I agree.
No one is obligated to speak on it. Nobody is obligated. But those channels that cover social commentary, I got this DM. I just have to respond to the pushback on our criticism of the lack of coverage. Sure, Bachelor Nation channels have a right to cover whatever they want. But we also have a right and good reason to be critical when they give us weekly, if not daily, updates on Ryan Sutter's tweets, who's unfollowing who, while saying absolutely nothing about not just a story that has actual importance, but is in fact much more dramatic than anything else happening in Bachelor Nation. What a great point. We might have the smartest audience.
Congrats.
I feel like do what you want with your platform.
Truly.
Yeah. We also don't live online, at least some of us don't. Like when you become aware of a story, it might take someone else 3 days,
We are 9 months late. We are 9 months late. No one's saying we didn't have grace for people to cover the story. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, and some podcasts are released weekly. This just happened. Yeah.
So some people are thinking she said some podcaster there. I don't know. If she did, it's funny. It's funny if this is like a whatever. Have a listen.
At least some of us don't. Like when you become aware of a story, it might take someone else 3 days,
Listen to this.
Yeah, and some podcasts are released weekly. This just happened.
Some podcasters are released, maybe that was just me reading into it. But the whole some podcaster line is when Clayton actually spoke my name when he was on the show, which again, it's fine. It's whatever. It's just petty. I said, look, I fixed it, Viall Files. This, of course, when Clayton was interviewed, there was a dirty edit where he took my name out and then I was referred to as a podcaster. So, of course, after that, someone made Dave Neal Some Podcaster merch, which I think sold like $2,000 worth of merchandise. It was absolutely incredible that you guys came to my defense and wore those merch shirts to shows and things like that. Anyway, just for old time's sake, here's the clip where I was deleted. And it's like, look, by all means, like I call this is like plagiarism to me because it's like, by all means, don't cover it. But like, don't go so far as to spend more time editing me out. If people were driven to my channel, they would have gotten the full story. So it's all scarcity for Nick. It's all scarcity. And this is what Jared Freed and other people have said about Nick and his platform. It's all like, you only have time for me. And that's why he's literally deleting other people's names. It's absolutely insane.
I get out of my case and I get a text from a podcaster and he said, hey, I get out of my...
So that was the part where they deleted. It was a delete. I get a text from a podcaster, Dave Neal, and he said...
case, and I get a text from a podcaster
named Dave Neal, featured in Time magazine.
And he said, hey,
I will defend you on my platform because I feel it's the right thing to do, even if I will be sued for harassment. And it's okay that other content creators would rather not defend you until legally they're in the clear. Even if they decide to delete my name from an interview, I'll still use the rage from my strong audience to promote my podcast, Bachelor Rush Hour, and also my Patreon for private membership opportunity, patreon.com/Dave Neal.
And he said, hey, you did a good job today. And you represented yourself well. And I said, what? I go, how do you know?
Because that whole time you thought you were alone when you only saw one set of footprints in the sand? Well, Clayton, that's when I carried you all the way to my award-winning podcast, Bachelor Rush Hour, and on Patreon at patreon.com/Dave Neal.
Jesus Christ. I get out of my
All right, so there it is. There it is. Look, I'm having fun with it, right? They deleted my name. We're having fun with it. So anyway, Reality Steve responded and said exactly what I would have wanted to say regarding what my intention actually was. And we love supporting our friends here. Here's what Steve had to say.
Something that I want to address that happened a couple days ago. And
by the way, Steve's got a YouTube channel, and him and I are going to be going live this weekend. So stick around for that. We're getting Steve on YouTube.
You all know what I'm talking about. Somebody in Bachelor Nation really called out Dave Neal for what he did. And look, this isn't coming from a place of bias.
Isn't that crazy, though? Called out Dave Neal for what he did. Like, why? Are we the baddest people here?
Yes, Dave and I are friends. You all know that by now. But
good friends.
My issue isn't just defending Dave here. It's more about what was said, which was Dave, and he admittedly so, and I thought just kind of used the wrong wording when he basically, somebody had written under Clayton's post when he came forward saying, great day, judge ruled in her favor, justice prevailed, and all that. Dave made a comment that that Bachelor Nation, many people in Bachelor Nation did not support Clayton, and Clayton wouldn't forget that. And Dave did a whole podcast yesterday where he said, you know what? I chose my words wrong. I wasn't calling out everybody, and he wasn't. But there was somebody in Bachelor Nation that responded to that and took it personally. And that said, look, we've all got other things going on in our lives. We don't all have the time to do this. And just because we didn't doesn't mean, we don't support him and stuff like that. And my whole take on it is this, and this is what I told Dave, and this is what I'll say publicly, is that nobody was ever asking anybody in Bachelor Nation to cover this case like Dave did. We're not asking you to put 2 or 3 posts every single day like Dave literally did for 9 months, YouTube videos. Nobody was ever asking that. All they were asking was, what do people say when they go on the show? You basically become part of a fraternity, sorority. You might not know somebody from another season or be close to them, but...
And by the way, I'm not in the fraternity of alumni. I'm not in the circle that I think they should get my back. My circle is folks like She's All Batch, Reality Steve, content creators that like Game of Roses. Those are Dear Shandy. She was on the show, right? But they're like sweet people. Like those content creators, even Courtney Robertson, and I'm sure I'm missing others. Jess Ambrose. Those are my peers. The people that are like sort of like parallel to this show. So it's not like I'm asking for people to donate to me from the alumni community, right? I'm advocating on behalf of somebody else.
You all went through the same experience, so I don't think it's asking much for somebody just to come out and say, hey, go check out Dave Neal's channel. He's really covering the Clayton case very extensively. I support Clayton. That's it. Something basic like that. Like nobody was asking anybody in this franchise to speak out like Dave was speaking out and talk.
Anyway, thank you so much, Steve, for, honestly, just bringing what I believe to be the most rational take on this matter. And maybe that's why Steve and I became friends, because when he apologized back several years ago for mistakes he made, I said, well, that's a pretty good apology. Like, let's give the guy a chance, right? And he's been a real great journalist in the Bachelor community, the best of all the people that cover this show, the highest batting average. The guy's really taken his own criticism, rightful criticism, and applied it, not, because there's always bad criticism, but like he's taken rightful criticism, applied it, and made the most of it to become a better version of himself. And that's all I'm saying I want to do. But also, like, for these people that don't exactly know the story or want to rewrite the story, like, listen, I've had, gosh, I hate to say it because I don't want to out anybody. Put it this way, more producers from Nick's podcast having left Nick's podcast, whether fired or whether they quit, more producers of his podcast have been reasonable with me. And I understand these producers, they're kind of giving Nick the ammo he needs to fluff him up. I understand that. Don't bite the hand that feeds. They work for him. They get their health insurance from him, which is noble of him. I wish we lived in a society where companies didn't have to, dangle health insurance over you, but that's not his fault. That's a whole different issue. So I know what side of the story I'm on. I'm just not going to let it be rewritten, and I'll just continue to make my own responses if I feel like it's done so. My doors are open. I'm available in person or through, actually, no, in person. I would only do an in person. I'm not doing the Skype interviews with like heavy topics. That's icky. I'm available in person if Nick ever wants to have me on to discuss these things. That's not going to happen. I get why. That's okay. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't be, I don't know. I wouldn't be holding on to my audience. As you guys know, I regularly feature people that have smaller audiences than me and help them grow their channels. There's room for all of us. All right, folks. I'm not going to read the comments on this video, so do what you want with them. But I will be on Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. Regarding the Clayton Echard story, I'm about to share with Patreon some amazing news that just came in that is going to brighten everyone's day. We've got 136 people in the Patreon live stream right now. We'll be live for another couple hours, and I'm about to share that news. It will make you smile, and it might make you cry, to be quite honest. And I'll have that for the Patreon right after this, patreon.com/Dave Neal. If you do want to take this time and write to the Maricopa County prosecutor, there is a form letter. It is the easiest thing in the world to do that Megan Fox set up. I'll post that in the description, and you can send that letter in and help watch justice take place. Because trust me, the work we're all going to do to make sure this goes to the prosecutor will be reported on by all these other Bachelor channels. Who cares if we get credit or not? The credit I need is justice being served. Have a good Friday, everybody. We'll talk to you later.